Okay, now we need to consider our order of processes, because our next step is going to be to drill some holes for screws to join this together. However, we also need to get our base to final size. Now, if I go and cut a 3-inch square out of this and then try and assemble the sides around it, chances are I'll have messed up my measurement somewhere and the base will be too big and we won't get the sides to fit together properly. So I think it's going to be a lot easier to assemble the sides first and then make a custom base that will fit into the bottom, because we can take this solid cuboid, measure these distances in here, and then make the base fit that. Marking up for drill holes doesn't have to be that difficult. You can often use the pieces of wood that you're going to end up putting together to draw your straight lines without needing a ruler or anything. So as I've got my pieces of wood in the configuration that I want, I know where my screws are going to go, so I can take these two here, lay them down like this, and if my edges are flush on the back side here, which I can just do with my fingers, and we're all lined up, I can just draw along this inside edge, although I am just going to spin this around. Just draw along like this. The other thing that's going to do is put my numbers on the inside, because I don't want people to see those on the outside. I don't want anybody to think I'm an idiot or anything. And then just repeat. Now when drilling the holes, obviously we need to account at the bottom for our base, so we also need to mark up for that. So all of my screw holes for the sides are going to have to be above this line here, so we can't go in there. And I could just then punch a couple of holes in each side here, but if we want to be really nice and make it look proper good, we could measure the distance. So just take an overall measurement, which is going to be easiest there to say, I think 11 centimeters, and then to work in, say, 2 centimeters from each end. And then obviously right in the middle of our line and the edge of the wood. This will make the pot in the end look nice and symmetrical, and it will mean that we have plenty of meat, plenty of strength around each screw when it's joined together to give it lots of strength. What I mean by that is if I were to put a screw in here right at the very edge, chances are there's very little wood on the side here, so we'll end up ripping out or the wood will split. And it won't be that strong, so we want to move in a little way so that we've got a nice distance of wood around all the sides of the screw hole to make it a nice strong join. So again, we can use our speed square just to put more straight lines on where all the holes are going to go, and then yeah, measuring a couple of centimeters. I might even do 1.5 centimeters. Now we come to drilling, we also need to consider how exactly we're going to hold the wood while we drill it. Now here we have two options. I could either use my clamps to clamp the wood to the bench like this, which recently I have been doing quite a lot, or I could put it in the vise. Now the aim really with this is to obviously hold the wood still while we're drilling it, but also to make life easy so that we can drill straight. Obviously we don't want a squiffy hole, otherwise the screw will come out at a funny angle and won't necessarily go where we want it to. So we want to drill a nice perpendicular hole down through the wood, which means that we need to either be very good at holding the drill straight or have a nice flat surface to drill against. To be honest, in either of these configurations, if I'm holding the drill like this, I could go left to right or up and down, and if I'm drilling like this, I could do the same. So it doesn't make much difference, although recently I have been preferring this because I can get on top of the drill more and see where it's moving easier than here, because having the drill below my eye level in this position means it's more likely that I'm going to be off in this direction than I am here. So I think we might as well go for this method. So to take a deep dive into drills, this is mine, a Black & Decker. I believe my granddad actually bought it for my dad. My dad had it for years, for as long as I can remember. It terrified me as a child. And then he's since got cordless drills, because this one still obviously has a cable. And so this was just sat in the cupboard. It actually broke, and we ended up doing a bit of a restoration to it, put a new chuck on it, took it to bits, re-greased it, all that fun stuff, and now I have inherited it. It's also only got two settings of hammer or drill. Hammer is for masonry. Today we'll have it firmly set over to just to drill, and we'll be using brad point, I think it's brad point bits, wood bits. They look like this. Most commonly I drill either wood or stone, so I have in this pot my most commonly used wood and stone bits. Brad point bit is characterized by those 3 points there. I have in the past in a different video explained different types of drill bits, so you can go and watch that here. And I won't go into what other drill bits are today. So I've got my screws out so I can decide which ones of those are going to be appropriate for this job, and then that also lets me determine the size of drill bit that I need. This is the one I use all the time. I think it's 3mm. For general purpose use, it does the job perfectly. Punches through softwood really easy, and then it'll give us a nice convenient hole for putting the screws in. Assembling the pencil pot as we are like this, and in most woodwork that I do, this is how I will assemble wood. It means that in order to stop the wood from splitting and to let the screw go in easily, it means you need to put a pilot hole through this piece here, and then this one, the screw will go in on its own and doesn't split. Don't ask me how it works. I think it might be because of the slower speed that it's going at when it's going through the second bit, but for some reason the second bit you don't have to drill, the first bit you do. It's just how you do it. So we're going to get the bit into the drill, tighten the chuck up by hand, and make sure that the bit is seated nicely between the 3 jaws of the chuck, and then tighten it up either with the collar on the cordless drill that you may be using, or with the chuck key on this one. Uncoil the cable, plug her in, and then the last thing to do will be to put on some PPE before we get going, because of course we need to stay safe in the shed. In terms of PPE, I've got my old glasses on. I could put my safety goggles on, but I'm not going to bother because I know we're only drilling. And also I am going to put on my old ear duffs. I won't need a mask, I don't think either. We're not going to be sending dust everywhere. It's only going to be some little drilling chips. And then to return to the drilling itself, obviously we just put the drill on here, and we make sure that we're nice and straight, and then we take a nice firm grip of it. I like to put a hand on the top here, and then obviously one hand on the handle with the trigger, and we're going to start slowly spinning it. We don't just go like this. We don't want to make a nice controlled start. Put it on, start nice and slowly, little bursts. Get yourself a hole established, and then because it's softwood, if I want to, I can just punch through like this. It really doesn't take that much effort at all. But what happens there is I put a ring from where the chuck slams into the wood, and also on the back side, I've burst out, where's it gone? Little jaggedy bits like that, which we want to try and avoid. More often than not, it does happen on softwood anyway, because again, it's another characteristic of softwood, like that little splintery bit you get when sawing, but we can minimize it by taking our time. If I go in and get the drill up to speed, and I'll have to do this because it's so loud, I'll have to talk and then do it, but if I get the drill up to speed and then let the gravity and the weight of the drill just pull itself slowly through, I'll get a lot less spitting out and chipping of the wood on the backside. So you can see there how little time that took, and on the back side you have a lot less chipping out on that one. So we'll get clamped back in on the bits that we're actually going to do now and make our drill holes. Okay, that's done that. 2 holes to hold the sides together. I've also put a hole in the bottom of each one so that we can go through the sides and into the piece that's going to make up the bottom of the pot.